Hey there, welcome to my weekly series, The Rest of the Story, on my podcast, Hey Dancer. I'm your host, Miller Daurey, and I'm very happy to have you here. I've got a lot of gratitude for your presence, so thank you for listening. Take a moment, if you will, to rate and review, follow, subscribe, like, comment, share, wherever you're watching or listening. It really does help the algorithm wherever you're watching or listening. It lets them know, oh, there's more engagement than only listening. Let's spread this podcast around. Let's spread the dance love. That's how it works. So again, thanks in advance. Today is a new one in the sense that I actually have a connection, a story with this week's subject. That's never happened before, so make sure you stick around till the end because I'm going to tell you all about it. All right, let's get to it. She's born in 1942, Jacksonville, Florida, one of three sisters in a tight-knit working-class family. Her dad is a liquor store clerk, her mom in retail, and at just 6 months old, they join the Second Great Migration, a time when many African Americans migrated northward and westward, seeking better economic opportunities and escaping racial discrimination, with New York being a significant destination for many. And they land in Harlem's Sugar Hill. Home is a cramped walk-up on 150th Street. It's a lively nook, jazz pours from windows, and legends like Billie Holiday are playing live nearby. Junior high, she sings in choir. A teacher hears promise in that voice of hers and nudges her to audition for Fiorello H. LaGuardia High School of Music and Art, Manhattan's performing arts jewel, later the Fame School. Guess what? She nails it, picks music, eyeing a singing career. But a summer camp shifts her course. I went to a summer camp which had a wonderful dance program and got interested in that, she'd recall. Senior year, she's set. I was in my last year in high school when I began to think of becoming a dancer, she said. But what really cemented dance for her? Well, it might have been the time her dad scraped enough cash so that she could go see West Side Story on Broadway. From the balcony, there she is, sitting and watching Chita Rivera do her thing. This is it, she decides. Dance is her call. She's late to it, though. No early ballet or tap lessons like most young dancers, so she digs in. A scholarship gets her to Juilliard, 1960, training under Martha Hill, the Academy's first director of dance. She's there, dawn to midnight, working her tail off, feeling the need to prove herself, fueled by chicken, mustard greens, and chitterlings, southern roots her mom keeps warm for her when she gets home from study. Year 2, a pro gig pulls her. A friend's tip lands her on tour with Harry Belafonte, her first stage. She's back at Juilliard by 1961, shifts to fine arts, but leaves in 64. Now sources argue, did she get a degree or not? We don't know for sure, but what we do know for sure is her drive is clear. That year, Broadway calls, a new musical starring Barbara Cook, Something More, where she starts in the chorus. And soon, she's a soloist with top dance companies, such as Martha Graham and Alvin Ailey. By 1966, choreographer Donald McHale spots her, and he books her for TV specials, dancing for Gene Kelly's New York, New York, where they literally performed a duet together. She also books specials with Sammy Davis Jr. and Harry Belafonte. In 1967, she auditions and lands Sweet Charity in Vegas at Caesar's Palace. She's Helene, a sharp-tongued taxi dancer holding her own next to Juliet Prowse, already a film star from GI Blues. The show hops to London's West End, and she goes too, lighting up the stage and eventually wins the London Variety Award for Best Supporting Actress. Bob Fosse, stepping up for his first film, spots her there and pulls her into the 1969 screen version of Sweet Charity. My gosh, she's only 26. It's her film debut. The idea of adjusting stage moves for the camera scared the wits out of her, and now there she is, starring alongside Shirley MacLaine and Chita Rivera, the dancer she'd watched in awe from the balcony years before, a full circle thrill she called, quote, almost too much to comprehend, end quote. It's a rush. She slinks through big splendor, lifts "There's gotta be something better than this." Walter Kerr, iconic theater critic, later calls her cool and angular, a presence. That year, introduced by Sidney Poitier, she solos on the Oscars stage in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, 4 minutes, starting alone, then with UCLA's band, a rare Oscar spotlight for anyone, much less a dancer, a spotlight she owns. Dance is her heartbeat. In 1973, she's at the Tony Awards, dancing with Gwen Verdon and Donna McKechnie, a trio of legends, cementing her mark. Same year, she's teaching at Mafundi Institute, a black cultural arts center in Watts, California, post-1965 riots. It's for black kids who'd miss out otherwise, she says, guiding them from ballet to boogaloo, rebuilding a scarred community. The 70s tilt to acting, the Andromeda Strain, Uptown Saturday Night, but dance pulls back. In 72, her standout role in Don't Bother Me, I Can't Cope, a musical review, earns her an LA Drama Critics Circle Award. 81's Sophisticated Ladies pairs her with Gregory Hines. TV grabs her. Night Court, 84. She's a series regular. The Women of Brewster Place, a miniseries in 89. Guess what? She's nominated for an Emmy for both. Acting glows. She becomes a household presence, but dance stays her core. Quote, the only time I feel complete expression is when I'm dancing. Then I have no problems, no worries, no hang-ups. I feel I could do anything. End quote. Fosse, years on, dubs her the best dancer I've ever seen. By 1999, she retires, leaves the stage and screen, goes quietly. A decade later, in 2009, she's back, crowns at Ebony Repertory Theater, moving at 67 years old, still sparking. Harlem's daughter carved her own path through dance and never stopped. Her name, Paula Kelly. And now you know the rest of the story. Well, Dance Fam, there's always so much that I want to include in these episodes, but for the sake of time and just for, what I'm doing with this particular series, it's to truncate and to give you as much as possible to leave an impression of this extraordinary dance legend's life, in under 5 minutes, maybe 7 or 8 minutes, depending. And there's always so much I could share. And, today I'll share just a little bit more. Her acting really was impressive. She was on lots of shows like Sanford and Son, Policewoman, The Golden Girls, which I really remember her from. I love that show. And she played a housekeeper who did voodoo, and she was just so good. And just to give you an idea of how talented she was, Lee Daniels, who you might know, who's a very famous director, screenwriter, producer. Well, I didn't know this until I did research on Paula Kelly. He was a talent manager in his early days in the 80s. And guess who he managed? Paula Kelly. And he's on record as calling her, quote, our Meryl Streep. He felt that her talent was ultimately too big for the roles she landed, and because of her skin color, didn't get the opportunities that should have made her on the level of an acting legend. And I don't know, I think that's very powerful because oftentimes when we think of a triple threat, right? Someone who can do the 3 things, acting, singing, dancing. Usually it's somebody who can do those 3 things really well. Often it's one of those things amazingly and the other 2 pretty good. It's rare when somebody is gifted at each individual thing, acting, singing, dancing. Paula Kelly was that anomaly. She truly was a genius at each of the 3. And before I get to how I know her or my connection with her, don't forget, take a moment, please rate the show, review it. If you enjoyed this episode and you're watching on YouTube, give it a like, comment, share with your dance fam. Names like Paula Kelly need to be known by the dance community. They need to be known. And if you're not watching this, I might recommend to click on the link in the show notes so that you can see the extraordinary footage of this extraordinary woman. Okay, so what is my connection with Paula Kelly? Well, in my Return to Dance docuseries and on this podcast, I have talked about from time to time the fact that I won a dance award when I was a teenager. It was the most prestigious award for Best Dancer in California, the Music Center Spotlight Awards, and there were 3 judges. And who was one of the judges? Well, Ms. Paula Kelly. Interestingly, one of the other judges was Juliet Prowse, who I also mentioned in this particular podcast because they starred together in Sweet Charity in Vegas, if you recall me saying earlier. And Juliet Prowse went on to be a huge film dance star. Anyway, I performed a solo on the stage of the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion, and that's another interesting thing I did not realize. A connection that I have with Paula Kelly is that when I mentioned earlier that she performed a solo at the Oscars to Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, it was on that same stage. That is so neat. Anyway, I just remember my mom freaked out because my mom knew who Paula Kelly was, and my mom always knew the dance greats, which I like to think is in my blood because of that. I'll never forget this, and I looked it up because I didn't have it readily available, but Paula Kelly spoke to the LA Times about me at the time when they did a feature on me winning this competition. And here is this little excerpt from the LA Times. One of the competition judges, actress-dancer Paula Kelly, said, Daurey, quote, has the singular quality of being able to totally shape the story he's telling, end quote. Oh my God. That makes me really emotional, reading that out loud. To know that this legend, watched me, her eyes watched me as a dancer, and that she said that to the LA Times is just extraordinary. I mean, and it's interesting, I guess I never really thought about this, but I talk often about in my Return to Dance project, my social media, how the art of telling a story, I feel, has been lost a lot in dance today. And the fact that Paula Kelly pulled that out from what she saw of me, dancing. I don't know. It's just so meaningful to me. It is so powerful. So I just wanted to mention that, and wow, just the honor of knowing that this woman saw me dance. Wow. I mean, right? Wow. Okay. I'm obviously having a hard time formulating my words right now. That was a moment, and I think I just said this, but share this episode with your dance fam. Dancers need to know the legends who paved the way for us. They really do. There's a really amazing clip on YouTube, which you must check out, with James Earl Jones introducing her and talking to her at the Mafundi Institute, which I mentioned earlier. And I love so much that Paula Kelly always gave back, that it was important to her, even when she was still very, very young, to teach the new generation. Oh my gosh. So I've stopped the podcast and I hit record again because I just remembered something else that I totally forgot, that I went to go see Paula Kelly. I don't know when. I want to say it was late 90s, early 2000s in Los Angeles. She was performing a one-woman show, like a nightclub act thing. And I don't remember much else about the performance except that I was there. I don't know if I was even with anybody, but I remember watching her and just watching her with so much love, from this intimate audience setting. And oh my gosh, it's just so crazy how memory works, because I haven't thought about this in years. I just remember going up to her afterward and telling her who I was, and she remembered, and we hugged, and it was this lovely moment. Wow. Okay. So, in my life, I have crossed her path at least 2 times. How lucky am I? Okay, until next week.